June 22nd Electric Toasters combined with Cascade Speakeasy Toastmasters meeting. We've got a full agenda. It looks like everybody is here tonight. Rob, do you have a flag for us to pledge?
I do, Mr. President. If all of you would kindly mute yourselves and direct your attention. Oh, I need to have, thank you. And repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Our Toastmaster tonight is James. I believe this is James' first time being Toastmaster in this joint session. So everybody, welcome James.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Ian. Bear with me. I've got multiple screens up here because I couldn't print off the schedule, so I'm looking at my laptop computer. We have a very interesting theme today, hobbies and pastimes. I hope that people are actually getting to do hobbies and pastimes and maybe have some good ideas for me. It seems like right now working for the DOT, all I'm doing is working and sleeping. We definitely have some obstacles in our agency that we have to get by here in the next couple of months. So all I've been doing is working, unfortunately. And as far as I know, there is no changes to the agenda. Everybody has filled their roles. And I don't know of any guests because I don't know you all that well now, but I think it's all the same, yeah. All right, so I would like to introduce our general evaluator, and she will introduce her team. That is Christina Stepper. Christina?
Thank you, James. It is my honor this evening to be general evaluator for the meeting. I will be working with a team to make sure our meeting runs smoothly, that we have reporting done at the end to keep us on track and remind us what to work on for next week. My team includes evaluator, timer, grammarian, and counter. Tonight we have one speech. Our speech evaluator is Pat Whitfield. Pat, would you share what you will be?
Certainly I will. It is going to be my pleasure to evaluate Eric. This is going to be an icebreaker speech, and his Pathways track is motivational strategies. So his theme for tonight is going to be working smarter. And the purpose of this speech is for him to introduce himself in a unique way and to present a topic, which I've already mentioned, working smarter, that sounds very interesting and something that we all can benefit from. So looking forward to it, Eric.
Thank you, Pat. The next member of the team tonight is our timer. Jackie was not able to be with us. Thank you, Joyce, for stepping in to be timer this evening. Would you share what you will be doing? Please?
Absolutely. This is my favorite role. I don't understand why. I just love it so much. For table topics, at 1 minute, I will raise the green roll. For 1 minute and 30 seconds, we go yellow. And for 2 minutes, we go red. As for Eric's speech, at 4 minutes, we go green. At 5 minutes, yellow. And at 6 minutes, red. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joyce. Look forward to your report at the end of the meeting. Armando was to be our grammarian this evening. He's not able to join us. Mary, thank you for stepping in. Mary, would you explain what you will be doing this evening?
I'd be glad to, Christina. Tonight I will be listening to everyone's grammar. Everyone has a speaking role. I'll be trying to keep my eyes closed and focus on what you're saying. I'm listening for exceptional use of the English language and dubious use of the English language. I also have a word of the day for everyone to use. And I picked one that I think is really topical for Toastmasters, and that word is affable. It's an adjective, being pleasant and at ease in talking to others, characterized by ease and friendliness. Isn't that perfect for us? Here's an example. Michelle looked forward to sharing her coffee breaks with Joe, one of her more affable co-workers. Ooh, I guess that doesn't show up so well. Well, anyway, A-F-F-A-B-L-E, affable. And I will report back at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Mary. Your presentation of your role as grammarian was very affable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next member of our team this evening is our awe counter, Steve Schwinn. Steve, would you share what you'll be doing this evening, please?
Yes, thank you. I will. I'll be the awe counter tonight, and I am not such an affable sort during this role because I'm happy to critically listen for any uses egregiously of filler words and stalling sounds, and well, and so I will keep track of that, and I will report at the end of the meeting how well or poorly each of us has done.
Thank you, Steve. It's now my pleasure to turn our meeting back to our Toastmaster, James.
Thank you, Christina. I'll move right into the speech. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today's speaker, Mr. Eric Stepper. Eric is 64 years old and is looking to work smarter. In his icebreaker this evening, we will get a glimpse into that part of his life with his icebreaker, Working Smarter. Please welcome Eric Stepper.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. New Year's resolutions. The overarching theme of this speech will be systems versus goals. We're all familiar with New Year's resolutions. Losing weight, exercising more, all those kinds of things. Let's say you want to lose 20 pounds. You set the goal, and if you're like me, 6 months goes by before you get to it. So you're basically going to lose 20 pounds in 6 months. And these goals, New Year's resolutions are like, they just weigh heavy on you. They're like Uncle Ralph's wool coat if you'd taken a shower in it. It's just an irritation. I'm all about getting rid of irritations in my life. In fact, I've invited a couple of friends out of my life because of the irritations, but that's another speech. Losing 20 pounds. So systems versus goals. If I'm going to lose 20 pounds, I'm going to look at this as I'm going to lose 5 pounds. I'm just going to step into this. So first of all, I take inventory. What are my go-tos? What are my have-to-haves? I'm going to have beer and dark chocolate. So I'm going to build my diet around that. Then the popular things that come in a box, junk food, those kinds of things I've got to get rid of. Eating better, nutritiously. There's all kinds of verbiage on that in the internet. But what I want to do is I want to just take little steps and make little adjustments. I want to make a game out of this. I want to make a puzzle out of this. I want to make subtle adjustments. If you have to worry about it, then it's just not going to get done. You're just going to put it off. At least that's me. Now, what I want to do when I have a goal is I want to make, like, for example, like losing weight. I want to make this a lifetime change, a lifestyle change, a permanent change. So I want it to be something that's going to go past December 31st. I want it to be something that is not an irritation, not a burden, something that just melds into my lifestyle. So the biggest parts of this whole process is awareness and anticipation. Awareness and anticipation, like for example, if you're going out to a restaurant to eat, be familiar with the place, with the menu. Pick out 3 things ahead of time that are going to be diet friendly, and then you'll have a go-to and a plan B in case they're out of it or something like that. You don't want to be that guy at the table going, oh, you know, trying to figure out what you want. Everybody's looking at you. Those kinds of decisions are rarely good decisions. You start looking at the fried things, at least I do. If you're going to a buffet, you're at some kind of a convention or something like that, go down through the line and look and see what all the offerings there are. In fact, I just read something today online that said in a buffet, the first 3 things are taken 61% of the time. And if you're like me, it's rolls at the front. And so I go and look and see what the protein source is. A lot of times if they have lettuce or a salad, it's just lettuce. What that is just a vehicle for fat dressing. So I eschew that. I go and I get some broccoli and a meat source. And more often than not, I'm halfway through the buffet and my plate doesn't have anything on it. I've gotten used to getting the looks, and I'm okay with that. Also, like office donuts, they're bringing donuts in. I've trained myself to walk right past that, and I consider it a game to do that. Or office parties, look and see what's there and pick out some things that you're going to have and some things you're going to avoid. And the whole gauntlet of Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, think about ahead of time what you're going to eat and what you're not going to eat. Have just half a slice of pie, and don't be that guy that's Debbie Downer, but pick your spots and exercise and get up and walk after the meal and those kinds of things. So for me, every time I have a goal, whether it's exercising or losing weight, dieting, I try and make it into a system. I try and make it into a game, into a puzzle, something that's going to last for my lifetime, something that I'm going to own. And I find that works for me. And I wish you luck on yours. And if you want to talk to me about systems, I'm happy to talk with you afterwards. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Eric. Joyce, would you please put 1 minute on the clock for comments?
I'm starting now. Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. It is my pleasure now to introduce Kathleen. Kathleen is our table topics master this evening, and I'm sure she has great questions for everyone. Kathleen?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Only the hardest questions. I've come up with for this group, an elite group of affable people who can handle it. Our topic today, hobbies and pastimes. I always start my research out with Wikipedia because I feel like it annoys Lloyd and all the other teachers in our group. Sadly, I was let down by Wikipedia. There was nothing even amusing in it. I had to turn to Webster's Dictionary, where I found out that a pastime is something that amuses and serves to make time pass agreeably, whereas a hobby is a pursuit outside one's regular occupation, engaged in, especially for relaxation. One hand, you're passing the time. On the other hand, it's some kind of a pursuit, implying that it's a goal-oriented activity. When I first saw the topics, I thought that the two words were interchangeable, but there does seem to be a little bit of difference. For example, I have a pastime of drinking beer. That's why I was wondering if Jack might be joining me. But I can see I have a comrade with Eric. That might be my pastime. It really has no purpose other than pure enjoyment. My hobby might be gardening, although it's not because I hate gardening. Many people are gardeners though, and they would consider it a hobby. You accomplish something, there's something to show when you've completed it. Seems to be a distinction. As I was Googling around, I came across a very interesting website. I Googled questions about hobbies, and I came to the dating website that was giving instructions for people on their first dates and how they should ask about hobbies, which of course takes all of us back to our first dates and those excruciating moments of not knowing what to talk about. And it was just made me tingle in a negative way, thinking about all that history. It was interesting though, that there would be a website instructing people, and there were five questions that were suggested on how you would approach this topic. And I'll just read one of them. This was question number 5, so presumably you've worked your way up on this topic. What's the favorite part of your hobby? Is one of the questions. We're going to set that aside right now and move into some of our questions, but keep that one in mind in case you don't like what I ask you. Let's start with our most affable participant, Ron. We've only met a few times, Ron, on Zoom, but you've done nothing to offend me, so I feel like you must be affable. Many people say baseball is America's favorite pastime. Do you agree with this, or do you have some other idea of what America's favorite pastime is or should be?
Most affable. You don't know me too well. I haven't said a word until I just now started. I don't know if baseball is America's favorite pastime or not. It's certainly very popular. And I like to watch baseball from time to time, but one reason I don't necessarily feel qualified to really provide a solid answer, I can certainly respond, but a solid answer to that question. I live in this little bubble of Wenatchee, where part of Chelan County, and if I'm not mistaken, all of Chelan County can fit in the Husky Stadium, can't it? We don't even have 80,000 people yet. So I get this real false sense of what is real in the world because I rarely leave. here. I did used to like going to the Apple Sox baseball games because over at the college, and I live right next to the college and walk over there. My son's 23. When he was much younger, we'd all go over there and sometimes take a blanket, because for folks that have gone to Apple Sox when they first start, it usually gets pretty cold at the end of the game. But you certainly don't need that as the season goes on. But it was pretty memorable. We enjoyed it. Couple of times I'd get one of those beers and share with your favorite pastime, just having beer and attending a game. Wouldn't smoke cigarettes though. That's some other people's pastime. I don't really care for that so much. I think baseball is certainly a common pastime. Is it the most common in America? I'm not sure. One thing I can say with certainty in 2020, it's definitely not people's favorite pastime. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ron. That was wonderful. Last year, we hosted an Apple Sox player at our house. It was a very interesting time. And in a future speech, maybe I can tell you a little bit more about that. Let's go to Rob. Married couples or partners may have different hobbies. How do your hobbies differ from Belinda's, and how do you navigate those treacherous waters?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Interestingly enough, Belinda and I don't have hobbies, not in the true sense of a hobby. I know that I've had a lot of pastimes in my lifetime. Many of them I can't tell you about because they landed me in the hoosegow when I was a young man. As far as hobbies go, I guess during this pandemic, we're both trying to find a hobby. In fact, I even went to the extent of buying a book called 463 Ways to Work and Make Money from Home. I thought maybe I might find a hobby or a suggestion in there that we, both of us or individually, could do from our home. There weren't very many good ideas. I think the only thing I could really truly call a hobby might be the fact that I am a high school football official. I've been told many times that I'm too old to play high school football. So the only way that I can be involved in the game is to be an official, to make sure that the game is safe for the kids who play it. I certainly don't do it for the money, and I don't do it for the affable coaches and parents and fans, because they don't always agree with my calls. But I truly believe it's important to be involved in the game and help young people play a game safely without getting hurt. And that is our primary purpose when we're officials out there on the field. So I'll continue to do that, and I'll call that my hobby. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Rob. That was very good. And that truly is a hobby, because it is such a very, very low paying, arduous job with those affable parents. Ian, I have a question for you. And you might be a little young for this question, so forgive me. As we go through the years, we have different hobbies. They change through the years, and our interests change. Have your hobbies changed over the years? And what is your hobby now?
Great question. My hobbies have certainly changed over the years. I remember as a kid doing some of the normal young boy hobbies. Excuse me. Collecting baseball cards was one that I recall somewhat fondly. We had a card shop in Leavenworth in the Clock Tower building, and I would go in there and spend whatever kind of pocket change I could come up with on baseball cards. And what's interesting is when you asked that question of Ron about baseball, I was thinking to myself how I hate baseball. I can't stand watching baseball. The best thing about baseball is drinking beer. So I have something in common with a few others here in that beer is one of the things that I enjoy drinking the most besides water. I don't collect baseball cards anymore, but I still have all of my baseball cards from when I was, single digits, 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe. And at some point I expect that my little boy, who's now 7, will be interested in checking out baseball cards. And I'm looking forward to giving him a new opportunity for a new hobby. Thank you, Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Ian. I agree with you that beer is a very, very important part of baseball. But I do enjoy watching the games. That is something we don't quite have in common. You missed my speech on baseball. One of my first icebreakers was on baseball, where I professed my love of the game. And I do miss it this year. It really is sad. Let's get back to our pastimes and hobbies. Oh, good, Lloyd's back. So Lloyd, I'm going to restate the definition of a hobby. It's a pursuit outside one's regular occupation, engaged in especially for relaxation. As a retiree, does that mean that everything you do is a hobby? How many hobbies do you have?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. There are a lot of misconceptions about being retired. I know before I was retired, I had this vision of being able to do pretty much anything I wanted. Life is good, the golden years, all that kind of stuff. That turns out to be crap. There's an important principle in sociology, Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law states that the work you have to do expands or contracts so that it exactly fills up the time that's available. In other words, things that might have taken you, say, a couple of days when you were working can take a week or a month or 6 months when you're retired, because it expands or contracts to fill up the time. So the result of that is that a sizable chunk of this bookcase behind me is filled with books that I bought thinking, well, someday I'll have time to read them, and I haven't. My garage, which just got stuff thrown in it when I moved in here, I guess it's about 3 years ago, looks exactly as it did on that day that the stuff was thrown in there. It's bizarre how at the end of each day you can say, okay, what did I get done today? And the answer is not a lot, but it filled up the whole day. So I have no idea what my hobbies are. I don't think it's relevant because I wouldn't be doing them anyway. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lloyd. Helping us all look forward to retirement.
I'll dream on.
That stretched everything. Victoria, I have something for you. And this question was generated because of my Googling. In addition to the dating website, I found a job interview website that I was surprised and chagrined to learn so late in my career that you could go out and bone up on hobbies that would make you seem attractive to the particular employer. They had suggestions for which hobbies you should pick, and each hobby would demonstrate a skill set that would be valuable to the employer. As I say, I was disappointed because it never occurred to me to do that when I was being interviewed for jobs. When I interview other people, I do always ask, I always say, what do you like to do for fun? I'm always worried that that's like right on the edge of being too personal and would get me sued someday, but I do ask that. What do you think, Vicki, about the idea of prepping one's hobbies for a job interview? And is it something you've ever done? And would you encourage someone to do it?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Prepping hobbies for job interview. That is brilliant. I mean, if you think about it, you have a whole bunch of skill sets with your hobbies. And if you can take that with skills that are for the job, it shows that you can also have fun doing these skills, which an employer I would think would want you to be enjoying these skill sets. I think that the generation now that has grown up with computers and playing with games has a upper hand on technology. And so when they were going to go for an interview that was for a tech company, they could say, one of my hobbies is gaming, and that would be something favorable. I can remember a long time ago, the parents would say, why are you spending all this time on games on your computer? And it is now, it's something that is looked at in the job that we need to have. And that is something that is now a paying job to create all of these games. And so a lot of these younger generation had this hobby that they're now making a career. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Sounds like you have a moral support in the background. Laura, do you want to be in or no?
Sure.
Okay. Tell us about your favorite hobby and why it's your favorite hobby.
My favorite hobby is Airstream trailers. And I don't know how, but I got sort of hooked on the idea of vintage Airstream trailers. And Lucy is like a big obsession of mine, and she didn't travel in an Airstream, but she and Ricky made the movie The Long, Long Trailer. And I just am sort of intrigued with that sort of simple lifestyle. And I have ended up acquiring 6 Airstreams. Steve gave me one that he found on a piece of property he was selling when we got married, and then he gave me another one on Valentine's Day, and I've purchased several, but I have 6. And so in order to support my sort of obsession, I wouldn't call it a hobby, it's an obsession, I restore them, I polish them, I make upholstery, I reupholster, and do all kinds of things. And when I walk inside an Airstream, it can be in the driveway or in the RV lot, I just have this sort of sense of peace and tranquility. The oxytocin or whatever that good chemical is flowing, and I can just let it all go. And that's what a hobby should do for you.
Laura, that is an amazing hobby. As you were talking through, I thought, is she talking about toy Airstreams? No, I could tell by the time you got to the end. I'm disappointed I didn't ask Steve the question about spouses' hobbies, but that was a lost opportunity. I think I've covered everyone that doesn't have a role, so I'm going to start calling on a few people that do have roles. Mary, you have my favorite background with the balsam root, so you're going to get to go next. We talked about a hobby and a pastime, that a pastime is something that makes time go by agreeably and a hobby is a pursuit. Do you think there's a difference between a hobby and a pastime?
Difference between a hobby and a pastime. Well, yeah, because you told us there was a difference, right? So yes, I do. I do. And, you know, I would really love to get rid of this background if I can figure out how to do it, because stop video. Rob, how do I get rid of the background? Stop video? No, that didn't do it. Because I am in my hobby room, start video. I don't know, I can't get rid of that
So
background.
you use the carrot that goes up just to the right of stop video?
If you put it right on that little arrow
Mm-hmm.
and click up, it should say to unpin.
No, maybe I don't. I've got the 3 dots.
It says choose virtual background.
Did I stop the time?
Yeah, stop the time.
Mary, it's the up arrow next to where it says stop video.
Oh, there it is. Now I see none. So yeah, you can see where I am now.
Okay.
You get the award for the most creative way to stretch out your thinking time.
Yeah, I am in my sewing room, so you can kind of see stuff that I'm doing with picture frames. Oh, there's my iron, my sewing machines. Somebody else was talking about retirement. Well, one of my things for retirement was using up my huge stash of fabric. And that would be an interesting tour sometime, but I had a box that was full of really pretty colorful cottons, and I just about used the whole thing up with face masks and little boxes. I make hot pads that are gifts for people. We have tenants, well, I hope it's okay, but I'm in Douglas County. I've got people in Airbnb, they all get to have 2 hot pads. That is my big hobby. They were meant to be hostess gifts for people, but since we're not going anywhere, I can't give a gift to a hostess. So I give it to people who stay at our place. That is my hobby. There's a bunch of boxes in back of me. They're all full of fabric and stuff. So I have a great time with it. And as far as a spouse and what they do, my husband's a woodworker. So he made these frames for me today, 3 of them. I'm going to stretch fabric over it, and maybe next week or the week after, I'll be back in my other room, and you'll see these hanging up on the wall and replacing whatever used to be there. So my husband's new job is just getting up in the morning. His commute is to walk across the driveway to his wood shop, and there he stays. Mine is to get upstairs in the afternoon, and I typically spend a few hours up here. So, hey, we're in hobby heaven, I'll say. So, and I guess there's really, for me, is there a difference between a hobby and a pastime? Well, maybe really not so much. I would do this regardless, and I've done it most of my life. So it's great fun. Thanks, Kathleen.
Mary, you get the second award of the night, which is for being so creative in showing us and visually taking us to your hobby. It's pretty impressive. Steve, for you. So Steve Schwind, hobbies can be expensive. Some people fly small planes. Some people have Airstreams. Or some people travel a lot. They can also be quite frugal and productive, like gardening or cooking. Should a hobby be productive, and should it have a price limit?
think the whole point of a hobby is to pursue productivity as far as personal growth is concerned, whether it's doing the New York Times crossword puzzle, or as in my pursuit yesterday of a bicycle ride from Lake Wenatchee, or my desire to paint. The ultimate outcome is a benefit that I derive from those hobbies or pursuits. And I think everybody pretty well has some expectation. Should there be a cost ceiling to it? Only if your wallet is the concern. If your personal interests are to spend all of your discretionary money to pursue your hobby or your habit, then so be it. Or if you have a parent or a spouse who thinks you are becoming obsessive and wants to reel you in because you have a mortgage to pay, then that's a concern or a consideration in your financial outlay to pursue your hobby or your pastime. I think sky's the limit, and the benefits to be derived are the purpose in pursuing a hobby or a pastime. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I am at the end of my questions, unless somebody has a burning desire who hasn't had an opportunity for table topics. I don't see anybody jumping up. Okay. Then I am going to turn this back over to the Toastmaster. And thank you. Great job, everyone.
Thank you, Kathleen. That was great. Now moving on to the evaluation portion of our meeting. Christina, will you please go over the evaluation?
I certainly will. Thank you, James. Once again, we've returned to the team who has been paying close attention tonight. Looking forward to affable reports, beginning with our speech evaluator, Pat Whitfield. Pat?
It was a pleasure to be able to evaluate such an affable speaker as Eric. His strengths and the things that he excelled at were, first of all, the structure of the speech, explaining the difference between the elements and how you get to them, and systems versus goals. I'd never quite thought about them in that particular way. He used some interesting metaphors and languages. Like, I loved it when he talked about something being so irritating as Uncle Ralph's wool coat in the shower. That's something I have never heard of before, and I really, really, really liked that. That was fun. That was fun. He gave some really good examples about how to, in a systematic way, order in a restaurant. And I learned something else there too, that the first 3 items are the ones that are the most commonly ordered. Learned a lot from this particular speech, especially at a buffet. He used some neat words, like he used the word eschew. Now, how often have you heard eschew instead of avoid? Very elegantly done, I thought.
Yeah.
And again, he talked about not being a Debbie Downer. So there was a lot of interesting language in there. Some elegant, some very well stated, and some that were just fun things. The other thing is he really attempted to use gestures, and I thought that was a wonderful way to enhance his speech, even though we're limited by the size of the screen, so we really can't see that as well as we might be able to. But I saw a number of gestures that seemed to support what it was he was saying. Something that you might want to work on is your pacing a little bit. There were some pauses that were a little bit longer and rather interrupted the flow of all of the very interesting things that you had to say. And to challenge yourself, just a little bit more energy to enhance that affable way that you have about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next, let's hear from our timer, Joyce Matheson. Joyce?
Hello, everyone. Eric's speech was to be between 4 and 7 minutes. You, Eric, had the actual time of 5 minutes and 48 seconds.
Wow, right on it.
Very nice. As for the table topics, Ron, you had 1:43, Rob, 1:59, Ian, 1:18, Lloyd, 1:33, Vicky, 1:25, Laura, 1:29. Mary, I got confused and I put you down for 1:18 when I realized that the speech had started and I had to wake up from my daydream. I apologize. Steve, 1 minute, 46 seconds. Thank you.
Joyce. The next member of the team, our grammarian, Mary Syrie. Mary, your report?
All right, thanks, Christina. Last week, somebody called Steve out in a good way. I don't mean that bad, but Steve uses big words. And so I thought I'd continue that theme. He used a 4-syllable word egregiously, using filler words was what he said. Good job, Steve. I love those big words. In Eric's speech, I too really loved Uncle Ralph's wool coat and eschew lettuce because they have life to them. You know, it paints a picture. There was one sentence I thought could have been a lot better though, Eric. You said, I'm going to have beer and dark chocolate. Oh, going to have. Maybe I require beer and dark chocolate or my life depends on beer. Just something to give it more pizzazz, like it's this or nothing or I shall die. That's a way to make your speech more colorful. But I love those other two items. Kathleen had, also these are really filler words. They're just extra words that we all throw in. I always start my research out with, and you really could just say, I start my research with, not doing that out. We throw those in a lot. But I did, Kathleen, like, how do you navigate those treacherous waters? That was nice, a good image. Ron had a good image as well when he said that all of Chelan County can fit into Husky Stadium. Right? Isn't that a good image? You think that's probably true. Oh, Husky Stadium's really big and we could all have a Wenatchee City conference over there, I guess, or Chelan County conference. Ian had one sentence that was really short, 3 words, and had quite an impact when he said, I hate baseball. After you told us that you collect baseball cards, we were thinking we were going to be this big baseball fan. No, I hate baseball. Short, to the point, and a little shocking, but I thought that was great. The best thing about baseball is drinking beer. So there. I will never forget that. Lloyd always has something intellectual to share with us. And today it was Parkinson's Law, which is the Boyle's Law of doing stuff. And someday, Lloyd, I'll have to figure out how you remember all this trivia. Last week, I think it was Occam's razor that you brought to the fore. There seems to be something about those you really love. And Laura, I liked your sentence. Steve gave me an Airstream for my birthday. Wow, what a birthday present. I wonder if it was wrapped with a bow on it. And word of the day, thank you for using it. Christina and Kathleen and Pat used it twice. Other users of the word affable were Steve, Ron, and Rob. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mary. The next member of our team tonight is our awe counter, Steve Schwind. Steve?
Thank you. Eric. Got a little rusty. Us are 2 and 1. Now, starting a sentence with now. 1. Maybe that's all right, maybe not. So, sewing machine, sew. 7. Kathleen, man, you were just knocking it out of the park right up till the very end, and then you slipped in an and a so. Ron, you had 1 and. Rob, 1 and, 1 so. Ian, 1, you know, and I'm not 100% sure that you did use that. It sounded like it. I caught it just in passing. Lloyd, you had a couple, 3 ahs, 2 so's, and you know. Vicky was doing really well and decided to slip in a and so and a Laura had an 2 ums, and 3 and or and so's, excuse me, is what they were. Mary, you had 4 ahs, and so, and you kind of like so also. You got wound up and tied Eric at 7. And something else, I don't, maybe not, never mind. And then James, 1. Right at the end, that 1 ah. As far as I know, I did well. But if I didn't, you can let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, for being on time to the meeting this evening, for muting when it's mute time, to keep the background noise subdued for our speakers. It was fun seeing various backgrounds, speaking of background, behind various members this evening. Our meeting started on time. We are actually a little ahead of time right this moment. I will, because of that, interject the fact that for me, watching baseball is like watching grass grow, especially if I'm at a stadium rather than watching it on TV. At least on TV, there are color people to fill in about who the players are and things like that. But watching it in a stadium is not my idea of a way to spend time. Maybe I've been multitasking for too many years. At any rate, great meeting tonight. Everyone was affable, friendly, fun. Laura, thank you for joining us. Great to have you join us. I will, let's see, do we have a vote for our speaker of the evening? I think not. Could you please send your votes to Kathleen, who was our table topics person tonight?
I have a quick question for Kathleen while we're doing this. Are you more affable before or after your beers?
I'm more affable after 1 beer, and I'm less affable after 2. Has everybody voted? Well, we had several different people got votes, so congratulations. But the winner is Eric. Eric Stepper, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now I will turn it back to our president.
Thank you, Christina. It's interesting that you mentioned that you would rather watch baseball on TV than in person. As much as I disdain watching baseball, I would much rather watch baseball in person. because at least there you're surrounded by baseball fans, presumably affable folks that you came to the baseball game with, and there's beer there. That's my favorite part of baseball, is sitting around drinking the beer and eating the peanuts. I don't have much else to say tonight. I'd like to know if Lloyd has any comments.
Yeah, the club officer training session, and Vicki, chime in here if there's something you need to say too, is this Saturday morning, starts this Saturday morning. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. We don't have the Zoom link yet. I assume that's coming out later in the week, right, Vicki?
Once you are registered, we will be sending the link out to all the registered
Okay.
On Friday.
Right. So far, we have 4 people from the Speakeasy who have committed to being there or have actually registered for being there. And I think Kelly Cordell from the Toasters. Is that correct, Vicki? Do you know?
She has not registered. The only person who is registered from Electric is Mary Secretary. So
Oh, okay.
more Electric Toasters to register.
Yeah.
Remember, you don't have to drive. It'll be from 9 to 1. You want to get this in. It's an easy credit.
Yeah. This is going to be pretty fast paced. There's an interesting thing. There's going to be a keynote speaker, a guy named Rich Hopkins, who lives in the Denver suburbs. Rich is my speech coach, and he's also a few years ago finished 3rd in the World Championship of Public Speaking. Very good speaker too. A few weeks ago, he decided to fill in some of the time that he had on his hands because his work got either shut down or moved to his house or something. So he decided he would do a speech or an evaluation or something in all 112 Toastmaster districts around the world. And he just finished that task last week. And that's an unusual thing to do. I'm not sure I would do it, but it's interesting that someone else took a shot at it and actually completed it. That involves some like 3 a.m. speeches because, you know, the district, say in Thailand or something like that, but an interesting idea. Anyway, it should be a pretty fast-paced session. The whatever that was called a couple of weeks ago, District Leadership Council, whatever that one a couple of weeks ago, moved very, very quickly, and I'm pretty sure that this one this week will as well. We've lucked out because Vicki and her other 2 trio members are not time wasters. So I don't think there's going to be any dead time or any feeling that you've wasted your time if you sign up for this. So Saturday, if you haven't registered yet, please do so.
Where's that happening? Registering? I didn't have any idea. I plan on being there.
Oh, I sent out an email earlier, but I'll send it again tomorrow, Steve.
I'll look back through my email history.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
I found mine in the junk file.
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I remember seeing that, Lloyd. Thank you.
Okay. Takes about maybe 2 minutes maximum to do the registration, so it's just a quick thing. And the room falls silent. Back to you, Ian.
Thank you, Lloyd. I'll definitely be there Saturday. I just haven't registered yet. And I'll send out an email to the rest of our group to try and drum up some additional interest. Rob, I see you got your hand up.
I just want to remind everybody that we're coming to the end of the Toastmasters year. You're going to run out of time to roast Ian. So if you got some good zingers, some good one-liners, bring them to the meeting next week so we can properly roast Ian before he exits as club president. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. And same goes, I would love to hear some one-liners about Rob. At this point, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.